I mean, I can still watch him. You can also tape it. He's probably only going to be in for a quarter.
You think? Well, yeah, he did get moved up to second on the depth chart.
Yeah.
So they'll probably have first.
Maybe you get a half at him, but probably I would guess a quarter and a half.
They'll probably roll Flacco out there for a series, and then you'll have Lamar for the rest.
Hand off twice, throw once. Yeah.
You might even. I don't know if they're carrying a fourth stringer right now, but and then probably see RG3, and if they have a fourth,
yeah, I'm sure they have a guy on the roster right now, as big as the rosters are. Yeah. QB was. I'm sure they've got somebody there, but somebody be a candidate for their taxi squad or whatever. But.
A lot of times you carry a fourth or even fifth just so that their arms don't get
and
tired.
Somebody may be out RG3. Let's face it, he is not the RG3 that was a rookie of the year guy. I mean, so yeah, they've got RG3 on the roster. I don't think RG3's spot on the roster is guaranteed. So I'm sure there's somebody on that Ravens roster trying to take his gig.
Yeah, I would say so. But, they also like the idea of having him within the organization to help mentor Lamar. As a guy who was the NFL's Rookie of the Year, made some errors, frankly, especially in his first year while he's winning Rookie of the Year, and then also in his second year in terms of getting injured. So I think they like the idea of him, and I think they still like his ability, in some respects. But obviously, Lamar Jackson is a freak, and I don't know if you follow the Baltimore Ravens social media accounts.
Boy, they sure are pumping him. If I'm Joe Flacco, I'm frankly not liking whoever's running the Ravens Twitter account.
Because Joe Flacco exists
right.
to the Twitter guy that runs the Baltimore Ravens social media accounts. Yeah. He doesn't. It's all 100% about Lamar Jackson, and they drafted Hayden Hurst before him in the first round, and it's still all about Lamar Jackson. So it's not even just a first-round pick thing.
They have Josh Woodrum on the roster. I'll give you a gold star if you can tell me where he went to school.
Oh, there's no.
I'll give you $1 million. Liberty.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
No,
I probably would have gone North Dakota.
And that's it. I think that's the only other. I can't sort it by quarterback, but it looks like to me on the Ravens roster at this point, that's the only other QB they have.
I didn't even know Liberty had a football team, and I think they. Yeah, are they FBS?
I don't even know.
Yeah, I think they are. But that's wild. There's so many teams now in FBS that you don't even know.
Yeah. So
it's ridiculous.
I was going to look. I was introduced to a great site yesterday. Maybe you're familiar with it already, but ncsports.com. Darren Rogers turned me on to this. It has the record of every team against the spread. It's only it's Division One, obviously. So Liberty. I was just starting to look up Liberty, but I realized they're not 1A, whatever the hell we're calling.
Yeah, they're not. I just looked it up.
And so you could look up every team dating back about 20 years of the record against what the spread was in the game and the record against said point spread.
Oh yeah, well I like OddsShark for that.
Does it have it has the historical data?
It's got the historical data. So if you want to know, for example, Louisville's playing Alabama and they're a 25-point dog, how often has Louisville been a 25-point underdog, and what's their record against the spread and overall record in those games? And so they'll break that down for you. Or if you want to know how Alabama does as a 25-point favorite.
Well, Darren, being the sick puppy he is, actually did some of this research. So maybe this research was already done for him. He wouldn't have had to do it because he's got a list for me of U of L as a double-digit underdog since 1985. And he's got a list of games that I think he compiled, but you're telling me this data is sortable there on OddsShark?
Yeah, it is. But NC Sports,
it's like the moment they already invented Mr. Skin.
No, OddsShark is a good one for that, and I don't know that they go all the way back to 85. They may, but they could. I just don't know how long they keep those records.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so 267-9680, our number to get in if you want to text away to the UPS Jobs text line. I'm looking. It looks like the biggest underdog Louisville's ever been was a 48-point underdog when Schnellenberger when they were at Florida State.
And how'd it work out?
32-9. Did not.
Okay.
Well, they covered. Yeah, it worked out from that standpoint. All right. Again, we spent a good portion of that first segment talking about Justify, the official handicapper of ESPN Louisville, and one of the owners from Starlight Racing of Justify, Clint Glasscock, on the line with us. I don't think it was unexpected yesterday, but it had to be deflating.
Yeah, Drew, I think I told you. We had an idea that this was going to be announced probably 2 weeks ago. But he gave us a hell of a ride, definitely a ride of a lifetime, but nothing but been great to have him here at Churchill, been great to go to the Haskell and the Travers, but, you can't be too disappointing with all the great times he gave us. That's for sure.
So what ultimately is the injury, and if they had wanted to do it, I mean, how difficult would it have been to try to get him back on the track by Breeders' Cup?
Well, and let me put a disclaimer. This is my theory. It's definitely, I don't want it to be that, it's the truth or the gospel, but, he trained here at Churchill all the way through the Triple Crown and never had really any issues. He had a slight issue coming out of the Derby, but no big deal. Obviously went on to run pretty well in the Preakness and Belmont. Yeah. But, I really think that surface out there at Santa Anita, I think it's a harder surface, and I think it caused this. It's just, all it is inflammation in the ankles. Mm-hmm. So, typical horse, you would give 60 to 90 days, and something kind of similar to what we had with Shut the Box, and you give them 60 to 90 days, and then you rock on. But, with a horse like this that's so valuable, obviously that's not an option. Yeah,
60 to 90 days, and then you're really pressing it to try to, that timeline really puts you under the gun to try to get back for Breeders' Cup. Even if it were a gelding, it would be a tough timetable, it sounds like.
Right. Sorry about that. The one misnomer, I want to get rid of this rumor that, the insurance would have been too much. That is a little bit something I know about, is the insurance side of the business.
That's what you do.
Consider that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
But, if the horse was on the track as what we call a racer, the rate on a horse like that, fully insured with no deductible, would be like 3.85%. So that's an annual premium, okay?
All right.
So if he's a breeder and just going to be the breeding shed, it'd be about a point less, 2.75 to 2.85. So you can do the math. Let's call it the reported $75 million. It's 1% of that for 5 months. So you're talking about $350,000 roughly for a premium.
Yeah. Okay.
And trust me, these guys, I know they would have a deductible, so they wouldn't be paying that much. So that whole rumor, I want to get rid of that because it's just ridiculous. You could have gone. I have pretty good sources that tells me that Haskell is going to be a $2 million race if we were in it.
Mm-hmm.
The Travers is 1.25. Breeders' Cup's $5 million. The Pegasus last year was $16 million. So there's definitely purses out there that would pay for $350,000 a premium if that was the case.
Yeah, you're going to cover it.
Well, the track would pick it up. Almost. You could almost get him to do that. Yeah. You could probably get an appearance fee.
Rumors out there just drives me crazy that they wouldn't want to pay the insurance premium and all that. Kenny Trout's worth $2.6 billion. I think he can afford the insurance premium on his horses.
So, on the high end, if it's with the reported number, you're saying that number would have been what, once again, for insuring it?
Well, because you're going to insure him even if he's not on the track.
Right.
So from a stallion perspective, the rate would be about 1% less than it would be if he was on the track. And that's a fully insured rate. Mm-hmm. So these guys have a deductible, so it's less than that. But let's just say they had it fully insured, no deductible. You're talking roughly about $250,000 to keep him insured through for the difference.
Yeah.
Keep him insured through the Pegasus. So that's just ridiculous. And then I want to correct one other thing that was said earlier. Dr. Waldman needs to stick to a hair replacement because Cigar was not a gelding.
Oh, he wasn't?
He wasn't?
He went to stud and he was infertile. He was shooting blanks, so the insurance company had to pay the other side of insurance when they're stallions. There's infertility insurance, so they had to pay $60 million.
You're right. And I remember that now, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did they keep Cigar on the track for so long then?
He was shooting blanks.
I know. Oh, they knew he was shooting blanks. Yeah. So then they just went back to
No, you don't know that because the insurance company wouldn't take the risk.
Got it.
The Paulsons at the time, they owned Gulfstream, the plane company, so they had plenty of money and they enjoyed the sport and they wanted to keep him on the track.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. It's going to be interesting. How do you think people will compare Justified to Pharaoh? The resume is undefeated, but it doesn't have anything against older horses. I know I'm asking someone who's a little biased in this, but I'm also asking someone who's a big fan of the sport. What do you think when people will compare the two and say, well, he never ran against older horses?
Well, there's only 13 Triple Crown winners. Justified is the only retired now Triple Crown winner that's gone undefeated. So I think that's pretty good feather in his cap. And as I texted you earlier, Pharaoh, so I don't know if this is the way to judge it, but Pharaoh sold for $40 million, and the reported number on Justified is $75 million. So, they're comparing really two phenomenal animals, freaks of nature. So, as you say, I'm biased. I think Justified was a freak to do what he did in the short time frame he did it. and so impressive. It's just a magnificent looking animal, as you know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I go back to is I don't know if you agree with this. I'm not sure he ever got to the bottom of this horse. I'm not sure he ever got done at the end of the race and like that. That he was pressed hard enough to bring his best out. I don't know that. Did we ever see that?
No, I really don't think you did. And it's, you really think about, your typical horse is the ideal is 4 to 5 weeks in between races. Well, he did everything within 112 days. He won 4 Grade 1s, did it very impressively, obviously. I think he'd have been scary if you gave him a 4 to 5 week layoff and then came back in the Haskell, and then same thing with the Travers, and then for the Breeders' Cup. I mean, you gave him a normal break. As we know, it's 2 weeks to the Preakness, 3 weeks to the Belmont. I think it would have been incredible. I'd love to have seen it, that's for sure.
So why did he go for so much more? Was it when it was sold? I mean, why is it literally almost twice as much as Pharaoh?
Well, 2 different things came into play. The Zayats were under a little different financial situation than Kenny Trout and the China Horse Club.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I mentioned, and I'm just reporting what Forbes said, Kenny Trout was worth $2.6 billion. So you knew if you're Coolmore or Darley or anybody going after this horse, you're going to have to pay a high premium. I think the other thing that you mentioned earlier, Scat Daddy was a Coolmore stallion that they were a big believer in, had been very successful. He unfortunately passed away back in January and February. So I think those 2 factors really inflated the price. And again, I'm just telling you what's been reported. Yeah. I'm not confirming anything. It was $60 million, so let's call it a third more than Pharaoh, with the kicker if he won the Belmont at 15. And I'm guessing that there was probably kickers for the Breeders' Cup and the Pegasus, be my guess. But unfortunately, I was not smart enough to buy into the breeding rights. We just had the racing rights, so I don't get the benefit of any of that money. That's for sure.
Do you ever have that decision kicking yourself on that at all on that one?
Well, no question. I mean, we had an opportunity on he and Audible, but the number, again, it was WinStar and China Horse Club. When you're dealing with those, and SF Bloodstock, who we ended up buying it from, when you're dealing with guys that don't need the money and you want to buy something they have, it's usually going to be a pretty big number. And it was a big number for a horse that just broke his maiden. But in hindsight, it wasn't a very smart decision on my part.
Well, I don't know.
Or Jack's part.
Pretty good ride, though. I mean, when you can say, they got to put a value on being the first Louisville-based ownership group in 100 and whatever it was, 14 years. There's pretty good value in that.
No, there's no question. I mean, you can't buy the experience that we all got to have, and he won $3.8 million in what do we say, 111 days. But the money, don't get me wrong, I like the money, but the experience with my family and friends and, Jen and the boys and everything, you can't put a dollar amount on that. That's for sure.
What was the best, it was the moment that sticks out? Is it Derby? Is it something at Belmont? I was with you for all of them, so I don't know which one sticks out.
It's funny. Marty McGee's writing an article and he asked me that question, and no question, it was the Derby. That's been the lifelong goal growing up here. Being around the horses since I was probably 2 or 3 years old, not owning, but obviously my dad forced me to go back then. So the Derby, being out there, like you mentioned, on the grass, I've never been on that grass before, and the only people that go are when they win the Derby. So they don't let people over there, for normal winter circle pictures. The exhilaration after the Derby was the ultimate. But, the Belmont, the Preakness was just, don't get me wrong, the Preakness was great. I enjoyed it.
Survival.
The weather and the whole situation at Pimlico was just such a dump. It was fun, and I enjoyed it. But the Belmont was really cool just because, as you mentioned earlier, we had so many friends and family members up there from high school, college. I know Starlight, just our group, we had 117 tickets at the Belmont. So that's kind of crazy. It's crazy. So the Belmont experience was pretty cool. And I think somebody asked me yesterday, that if he would have got hurt after the Preakness and didn't have the opportunity to win the Triple Crown, that would have been the ultimate blow. But this is bad, and don't get me wrong, and I'm disappointed, but I'm just so glad he got to accomplish the Triple Crown and be in the history books.
Yeah, will people be able to see him? Where's he going to stand? I can't remember where is the farm that he's going to stand?
Well, so it's pretty cool. WinStar announced yesterday He's going to parade at Del Mar on Saturday, and then they're